Today's episode is brought to you by Oxenham Group. Disengaged employees cost U.S. companies up to $550 billion per year, and a recent Gallup poll showed that only 33% of the U.S. workforce considers itself engaged. How are you ensuring that the people you hire are engaged? The Oxenham Group is a recruiting company that focuses on why a person takes a job and what makes them stay. They do this by understanding one's motivation, skills, and personal mission. Oxenham's proprietary process focuses on three main areas: sociologist-prepared questions, IBM Prove-It assessments, and Gallup Clifton Strengths. The combined results give the interviewer valuable insight into the potential for close alignment and the likelihood of engagement. Reach out today to learn more about how you can identify highly engaged people and harness the power of alignment with Oxenham Group. For more information, please call 605-610-3026 or visit their website at oxenhamgroup.com.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Canopy Cast. It is great to be here. I'm one of your co-hosts, Michael O'Connor, with Christopher McGurn and John Michael Price. And we are brought to you by our very special guest today, Jesse T. Fantastic guy. He is the creator and host of the Jesse T Show podcast and the founder of 46 and 2 Wealth Partners. And he is here to share part of his story, and we're just here to have a great conversation with him. So Jesse, I would love to just kind of hear where you are now, where you've come from, your stories to start things off.
Mike, Chris, John, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's a pleasure. I'm excited to connect with all of you, and I know you're doing amazing things, so I'll try not to screw this one up. So my story is pretty unique, man. I think everybody has a unique story, but I've seen a lot of things. And, I grew up in Boston. I was a single parent household. We didn't have a lot of money. And there were times in Boston in the winter where we would go without heat. And so my mom, she couldn't afford it. And, we had a nice apartment. It was actually right on the inlet to the Boston Harbor. So you didn't know that we didn't have any money, but there were times where we went lean on the no heat, which in Boston is crazy. And then there were times where we had bread with butter and cinnamon. It was we didn't have a lot, right? And it wasn't always like that, but there was a lot of times. And so I think that we'll fast forward as we get to it. That was what set me on my path to learn about wealth and to learn about money, because I used to live in a place of scarcity, and very much lucky to say that today I live in a very great place of abundance in a lot of different ways, but it didn't start off that way. And so having those experiences, taught me a lot of things early on. I went through, I was bullied pretty heavily for a few years growing up. I was, in a non-existent relationship with a father that was a heroin addict for years. I played sports as an escape. I was a huge Michael Jordan fan, which for those that are watching, The Last Dance, it's incredible to learn about Jordan, which you young bucks probably don't know much about Jordan, but the best basketball player of all time. Fast forward through that experience, I've lived a lot of life, man. So I escaped Boston because, I went from selling drugs to doing drugs myself, and knew that wasn't the path I wanted to be on. But a lot of my friends, or so-called friends, were doing those things. And I was easily, attracted to the new car, the new motorcycle, the hot girls, the clubbing, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in the middle of the week, just completely got away from being a college student and really went headlong into my first entrepreneurial venture, which was selling drugs. And for me, I always had that entrepreneurial kind of mindset. So to back it up a little bit, when I was a kid in Boston, I would buy, sell, trade comic books, baseball cards, way before it was cool to say such a thing. Gary Vee talks about it all the time, but I did it. Yeah. And I did other things too. So we would shovel driveways and sidewalks for some money. And sometimes not even. We would get gypped and get a cup of hot chocolate or whatever, which was fine, I guess. And then living across the street from Logan Airport in Boston, we took advantage of that too. So we would take the train from Orient Heights 2 stops to the airport train station. And that's where Logan Airport is. And that's the main, only airport really in Boston. And when you would get out of the terminals, they would have these little carts. They're called smart carts. And that's what people used to move their luggage with. I'm 38 years old, so I don't know if I'm dating myself too much, but with the smart carts, you would return them to a stall and you would get a quarterback. We were 10, 11, 12, 13. So if you do this enough times, you come out of there rich as anybody with $5 or $10. You're super excited. We used to get chased through the airport by security because you weren't supposed to be doing that. So there was always this kind of risky like let's make money behavior. And that, like I said, went through a time where I was dealing drugs. So, you know, I've lived a crazy life. I was able to escape Boston. I went into the military. My mom was, she was retired Army veteran in the Vietnam War, which badass human being, you know, as a female during that time, she's tough as nails, man. And I used to get, you know, punished pretty well. And, you know, just having that background of wanting to do something greater, being called to business, but like not having the right path. The military really kind of set me on that straight and narrow and got me away from the things that were pulling me down in Boston. And then just fast forward through the military to present day, I've started 3 successful companies, sold the first 2. I'm on my 3rd one now, which is 46 and 2 Wealth Partners. Have the podcast, have an amazing couple sons, Grayson and William. And, you know, my life is blessed, man. I shouldn't be here, but I am very grateful to be.
That's amazing. That's incredible.
Wow.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much for
Thank you for
your
sharing
whole story.
that.
In the first 5 seconds you had me, because I grew up just west of Boston. My dad is from Roslindale. So as soon as he said no heat, I was just mind blown. Like that's
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I grew up in, we call it Eastie, which is like, it used to be the Italian version of what Southie is known for being the Irish version of Boston. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a small world. And that, I think that's such a powerful, like the fact that, you know, I love that the way you explained that you always had kind of an entrepreneurial mindset, but it could be shifted. It could be selling drugs. Like it can be manifest in all these ways. And I find that so inspiring that you've had a life where you've managed to get out of that. You like joining the military. Like, thank you for your service as well.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. It was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
I just find that incredible.
I appreciate that, man. It's, I used to be ashamed of parts of my story, obviously. Right. And there was, you know, I'm a big believer in learning and being a student because it allows you to, you know, operate differently, learn the world a different way. But a book came across, you know, in front of me. I feel like books find you at the time they're supposed to. Like there's a lot of times people have a bookshelf. There may be X amount of books on there, but eventually, like for some reason you didn't read the book, but maybe like 3 years down the road after you got the book, like it calls to you and you read it. So this book that found me was called Can't Hurt Me, or is called Can't Hurt Me. And it's from David Goggins. And for people that know who David Goggins is or don't know who he is, he's had some similar things like traumas and abuses growing up. And he made his way through to the military. And he did 4 years in the Air Force. And he got out of the Air Force and he went and he just basically, he blew up. He got up to 300 pounds, treating his body like trash. And he was spraying for cockroaches on the 3rd shift, like from midnight to 8 o'clock in the morning, and hated his life. David Goggins found him, I think. There was this show that used to be out. It was about BUDS, which is the Navy SEAL training. And it was like BUDS 2, 3, 4, whatever the class was that he caught. He's like, I want to be a Navy SEAL. So he walked into a recruiter's office and they laughed him out of the office because he was 100 pounds overweight and they didn't believe in him. Everybody wants to be a badass special operator, but like he really did it. Long story short, he ended up becoming a Navy SEAL, an Army Ranger, Special Forces, Air Force. He's an ultra marathoner, so he'll run 100 to 200 miles at a clip. He had the world pull-up record at one point. Like he's just an insane example of mindset. And the reason why I bring him up is because his story was Can't Hurt Me. So the stories of him being bullied, him being racially, unjustly like called terrible, horrible things by so many people. He was afraid to talk about those things until he realized that would set him free. And as cliche as it is, the truth will set you free. Once I started sharing my story about being bullied, dealing with drugs, having a junkie dad who turned it around at the end of his life, thank God, all those things resonate with people. And so as a financial planner today, wherever life intersects with money, I am uniquely qualified to talk to people about the stuff they're going through because I've been through a lot of the same things. And so that's where I share that story and overcoming things and not being afraid to tell your journey.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's an incredible transition.
Yeah.
And it's really funny because I was just thinking about it. Like this is probably like every single entrepreneur out there listening. As soon as you said, you know, like started my first business selling drugs, like my first immediate thought was like, I wonder what the profit margin is on that.
Insane. And so is the danger.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it was insane. I started with marijuana, which was fine. And nowadays it's like pretty much legal everywhere, which, you know, would have been nice, maybe not for business back then. But it was really, so my mentor, who's an amazing human being, he called this Machiavellian, like in a sense, because, and this is not a good thing. So I hired 2 younger kids that were plugged into like the 15, 16-year-old kids. And I was like 21, 22, 23 before I got in the military. And I would pay them in giving them weed to smoke or like money for what they sold. And so I actually started recruiting people, which was funny because I ended up having a recruiting business later on in life. I recruited people to go sell my product while I was out living my life. And then that turned into a much worse deal, which was OxyContin, which is like heroin in a pill. And from Mike being from Boston, you know how bad the opiate epidemic is up there. When you're driving through the streets of Boston, you can see people literally like nodding out and falling asleep because they're just stoned out of their mind. And so unfortunately, I got on that for a couple of years, but yeah, the profit margins were insane. Would I ever do it again? No, but I'm glad I had that experience because it allowed me to walk the path I'm walking today.
Yeah. And something that's really interesting, you know, just by listening to you speak about it, one thing that I love is how, you know, the shame that you had from that you felt from that, like, instead of having that as a barrier, you use it as a bridge to leverage yourself to where you're at today.
Yeah.
Right. It's a bridge and not a barrier. And I think that's beautiful. It's very powerful and it's inspiring. So I really, that stood out to me.
We have relatives or friends that have been afflicted by drugs in some way, shape, or form. A lot of us have been through that. And there's definitely a need to share that. I've gotten DMs from people randomly out of the blue saying, thank you so much for talking about this stuff, and, you know, things that were taboo. Just for some other context, like some other crazy things I've seen in my life. My wife and I, we had our first child who, healthy pregnancy, labor and delivery was kind of weird because it was 40 hours long. My wife didn't want to take any medicine, like any epidurals or anything. She wanted to go natural so that mom and baby could be present and be connected. But our daughter came out injured at delivery. And after 7 days of being in intensive care, which is called the NICU, Neonatal Intensive Care Unit, we had to let her go. And so part of that story was losing our first child in such a dramatic fashion. You don't know where to turn and who to talk to. And tying it back to my story about, you know, some of the taboo stuff I've done, a lot of people have been through those things. And so my wife and I went out, started getting counseling and therapy to overcome this. And you learn it's a lifelong journey, like you learn how to deal with it differently. But then we started sharing that part of our story. And then people who've had a miscarriage all the way up to the passing of an adult child started reaching out to us. And then we started being able, from that whole mindset of being a learner so that you could start teaching people started reaching out to us, and we started helping people go through their traumas as well. So it's always been a narrative of experience, learn it, and then if I can, give back in any way that's possible.
That's incredible. And I think that whole mindset is so relevant right now. Everything going on in the world right now with the virus, there's so much fear, there's so much anxiety and sadness and death, and it's scary. And I think that just hearing you speak, I can tell you have that mindset, that you have the kind of positivity that you've been through so much, you've learned so much from these experiences. How do you think that helps you right now, like where we are right now?
Accept the things that you can change, brother. So like right now, we can't affect the pandemic. We can't affect, but we can affect the micro, right? Like, so like we can interactions like we're having right now. So one-on-one where you're talking with family, friends, clients, business partners, whatever it is. My whole thing has always been leave people better than you found them. And not that you have to leave them completely, but like every interaction you have, let's walk away with some sort of value from this together. You have your value, I have my value. We've helped each other. And so my mindset is you can't control what's going to happen. You can do certain things to protect yourself, social distancing. You can offer different products and services in your business to accommodate your clients, but you really can't control the outcome of this thing. So focus on the things you can control. You can focus on your health. You can focus on your relationships. You can focus on the things you're learning, the things you're paying attention to, subconsciously and conscious. I'm very big on subconscious programming, like way into this like woo-woo type world. But the things that you're feeding your mind and giving back to the world, you absolutely can control those things. And that's my mindset, is focus on the controllables, which, you know, you have, there's this guy, he's always on Joe Rogan podcast. I love Joe Rogan. And for so many reasons. And Andy Stump, he's an ex-Navy SEAL. And he got into Navy SEALs and like super young in the military. I think he enlisted when he was like 17, had to have his parents sign. Like he was just this guy that always wanted to be in the Navy. Just strange to me, but because it ended up going that way, but way after. And he talks about things that you can control, and you have a target. And on this target, let's just say, like if you're shooting arrows, is this bullseye. It's dead center. It's the smallest part of the target. That's your world that you can control. Everything that's outside of that bullseye is shit you can't control, and just like let it happen the way it's supposed to happen. And that's my mindset during a time like this. Being prepared, focusing on the things that you can control, and pouring into people. Right now, communication is huge. Zoom calls, phone calls. You have to pour into people because they're lonely too, and they need help too.
Yeah. And I think I love what you said about, controlling what you can and just surrendering outcomes. Chris loves the phrase. What is it?
Take the action, surrender the outcome.
That's yeah. Chris always did that. So I love that entire, and it's so true, because I mean, there's so little that we can do individually, to combat the virus, the pandemic, whatever, in terms of, what individually we can do. But it's still something that, like you said, focus on what you can do, staying indoors, but also communicating, maintaining relationships, and collectively, it's incredible. It's been amazing to see just the responses worldwide from people and communities to help each other out. I mean, it's inspiring. It's a sad time, but it's also a really inspiring time.
Yeah.
And I think even just stuff like this, like I've seen LinkedIn blow up with people, spreading positivity. Businesses are spreading positivity in the midst of layoffs and bankruptcies. There's still a profound humanity. And I think what you were saying, going through adversity, I think helps to really develop that mindset of humanity and understanding other people's problems and difficulties. And just talking to you and listening to you, it's so prevalent. And I can see that you're extremely an empathetic person. And it's so great to get to have the conversation with you. And I guess, how, going on to kind of a little bit more of the business realm, how do you think that, I guess, your experiences, your empathy has affected you, in your entrepreneurial endeavors, whether it's, investments or your podcast? I'd love to learn more about those.
Yeah, coming from a financial planning perspective first is empathy. And again, I used to be a Gary Vee disciple, not so much anymore, but he talks about empathy is the game. He actually has a wine collection that he put together called Empathy Wines. And the reason why that's important is if you can't understand where someone's coming from, you can't relate to them. If you can't relate to them, you're not going to value that relationship as much as someone that you can relate to, right? And it's not to say that you're going to be best friends with everyone. That would be wonderful. But the differences that people are going through, you can find similarities in that. You can find the struggle. You can find the things that may not be the exact same thing that you went through, but you can find the human condition to overcome and to persevere and to leave the world a little bit of a better place. There's so much commonality. And it's strange because I don't ever really meet a stranger personally, but in my business, how that translates is financially, people are in two camps right now. You're either in those that are prepared for this or those that are unfortunately unprepared. So let's talk about businesses and individuals. So if you're a business right now that's heavy on cash, you're super happy. You're happy because you can make your payroll. You're happy because you can pay your vendors. You're happy because you can do whatever it is to pour back into your business. And a side note of that is you always have to invest in yourself, your business, your people, your clients. That's where the money is, right? And so if you are lucky enough, and I'll give you a way to kind of get to the lucky point in a second, but if you're lucky enough to be well positioned right now, where cash is oxygen, this is a beautiful time to be able to focus on those things that you can do to help yourself, your business, your clients, your people. And most people right now, unfortunately, they're feeling the effects of the economy. They're feeling the effects of their business either being altered or completely shut down. And so there's a lot of empathy for those people too, because I've had business ventures that didn't work out before. I've had people that I've had to let go. I've had people that unfortunately, they weren't cutting it, or they were cutting it, but something happened and I had it's horrible. It's a people business. You don't want to have to let people down. And so when you're looking at people that are not really doing well right now in the economy, it's most likely because they weren't well positioned before this happened. And there's also the flip side to that, I'll say too, to kind of double back, is people that have lost businesses right now, it's not their fault. It's not like something that they did wrong. It's not like they made a bad business decision. It's just because the economy ripped it away from them. And so you have to have empathy for those people. So what do you do now if you're that person? Well, again, going back to controlling the controllables, what can you do? If that means pivoting in your business, and I'll use this example because it's beautiful. There's a company I follow. They're called Onnit, Onnit. And Onnit is run by a bunch of amazing people, but the top two people were Aubrey Marcus and Kyle Kingsbury. And Onnit is down in Austin, Texas. It's a human optimization company. They believe in being fit for service, and being fit for service is a play on words where you have to be physically fit, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, before you can serve and lead other people. And so what they've done with one of their product offerings is, instead of charging $99 for it, they're giving people the option to pay for $1. So you could still, if you have the money right now, pay the full price. Or if you're like going on the honor system, you could go ahead and say, hey, listen, times are tough right now. I only have $1. I still want to do this like life-changing thing. I'll give you the $1 right now, the $1. And for people that are in businesses right now, that's a beautiful way to help people and for people to become raving fans of your business. So if you have people that are kind of like on the outside looking in, like, hey, do I want to work with your company? Do I want to work with that company? You're going to plant your flag and completely put yourself leaps and bounds ahead of your competition if you're doing things like that. If you're pivoting, if you're adjusting to the moment. Now, that's not saying give away the farm and go out of business. By no means am I saying that. But if you can help here and there, it's a great humanitarian effort. I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And I think, like you said, it's an opportunity in a lot of ways, to be able to provide those things, to be able to be that humanitarian help just in people's lives, people's careers. And it's so important to be able to do that, to be willing to do that, I think, as a person, as a company. I mean, a company is just a collection of people. In the end, it's all human connections.
The one value add I'll throw in there on my end is like, well, so if I am on that other side of people that aren't prepared right now, because, the people that are prepared right now, real estate values are going to go down. The stock prices have already gone down on many companies, anywhere from 20 to 85% off. It's a beautiful time to buy if that's part of your portfolio, and you can really come ahead at the end of this. Now, if you're in the other camp of not prepared, what do I do? Well, a lot of people, unfortunately, have a little extra time these days because things have been shifted with their job or their business. You can make extra money by doing a lot of things right now. For me personally, I'm wrapping up an ebook that I'll be putting out, and it's 10 ways to become wealthy happily. Talks about the story, talks about mindset, talks about behavioral finance and how we weren't really ever taught that, why we make the decisions we make. Then it tells you 10 practical steps of how you can make money during any economy. And so for people that are out there that have any kind of skill set, you could be a cook, you could be a fitness guru, you could be whatever it is. This is a great time to take a few hours a day or whatever it is a week, pour into an ebook that you could turn around and if you're inclined, give it away for free, or maybe make a few bucks on each one that you sell, right? Maybe that you're let's say maybe you're an entrepreneur, or maybe you're close to it and you want to start a business. This is a great time to be maybe in a consulting business, because you can do that from anywhere in the world. And so if you're someone who's, let's go back to the fitness person, you can coach people and walk them through classes online right now. You could get a Zoom class going. People can still do things. So I think it's a matter of pivoting and looking at what it is that you really want to be doing to be of service in the world. I think that's where people could be focusing on where to make extra money right now. Not so much just cutting back on costs, because that's people's default when something like this happens. And yes, you should always be doing that, not just now. You should always look at your bottom line and what got you there. But you don't want to do it at the sacrifice of the people that are in or around your business either.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's fascinating to talk about, the kind of the mindset that's needed in day-to-day business. It's the kind of, you have to move towards opportunities. You have to, like you said, be willing to make everything more efficient. I think everything is just very amplified right now. Everything is kind of at 100 miles an hour instead of 25. And it's fascinating to see. It was crazy to see so many people had to go remote in, a couple of weeks, who had been in offices their whole lives. Just incredible shifts in dynamics in the workplace. What do you think? And this is, I'd like to tie your podcast into this a little bit as well. I feel like the entertainment scene, because of that, everyone is at home, everyone's working from home. Podcasts, I feel like, have become very, very popular. I mean, streaming services are, they're struggling to keep up with the demand.
Sure.
Have enough bandwidth. How did you originally start your podcast? And then I guess, how has this situation affected it?
Sure. Yeah. So for me, it goes back to being a student. And so I liked listening more time back in the day to like guys like Tim Ferriss or Simon Sinek or Tom Bilyeu from Impact Theory or Joe Rogan, who I still somehow consume all of his stuff to this day. He goes on marathon podcasts, like 2 to 3 hours. I think the longest one I've ever done is like 1 hour 30. So I don't really quite get that far, but I will. And it's just conversation. So for me, I like podcasts because that's how I learn. That's how I hear from interesting people. And then I was like, well, I know a lot of really interesting, cool people. Why don't I start doing it on my end? Why don't I start highlighting and showcasing entrepreneurs, thought leaders, creators, athletes that I am interested in, that I have a relationship with, and shine more light on them. And then by default, which wasn't really the deal, but by default, it shines light back on me. It's like, who's the person having the conversation? Who is this person? And that's great and wonderful, but really it's just these people that come on the show have a story. And that's the biggest thing for me, is story and relationships. Everyone's got a story to share. Everyone has a relationship that will open a door for one or another person. So if I can have people come on the show and they are experts in leveling up your business, some business tips, tricks, ideas in a certain industry, whether it's fitness gurus, whether it's people that can teach you how to be better in relationships. And I'm into some weird shit myself. So I have people come and talk about plant medicines and like how to expand consciousness and like all sorts of crazy stuff. I've had people talk about really dismal stuff, unfortunately, like rape and, loss of a child and addiction, but overcoming those things. And so I think for me, it's the hero's journey. It's people that I resonate with, that they've been here, but now they're here and they want to help people do the same thing. And so that's where the idea for the show was born.
Mm.
That's very interesting, because I know for us here at Canopy Cast, it's very similar in the sense, our one-liner that we tell everyone is an ecosystem of expertise. And, the name Canopy Cast, Canopy as in like a rainforest canopy. Rainforest is a holdings company. It's our holdings company for all of our subsidiaries. But, like the whole idea of that ecosystem of expertise is very similar to what you're just saying, right? Like the different industries, the different fields, the backgrounds, and just showcasing those people for the sake of showcasing those people. Like everyone has something unique to offer, something to bring to the table. And that's what Canopy Cast is for as well, is to showcase that, like you're saying. So I feel like there's a really similar goal there between the two podcasts.
What's been your experience with your podcast so far? What have you seen it lead to? What's coming from it? Like, what are some of the things that you've created that are like the fruit that it's bearing for y'all today?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we just got off of another recording with Brian Schulman. That went really well. And it was like, one of the thoughts actually, I'll kind of go into this and then I'll answer that question. But one of the things that came up was that same thought leadership and, shining your light on other people to have, the opposite happen as well. Like, their community accept you, follow you, that back and forth give and take. What's really interesting is, something he touched on that you just touched on a little bit as well, is you don't even necessarily have to be the one writing the articles or, making the videos. But if you're sitting there sharing quality content from other people, or you're bringing other people on the podcast that have quality content, things to say, something to give, people start associating you as an expert as well, even if you're not the one directly, speaking, writing, making the content, whatever it is. And it's a really fascinating concept just kind of in our society, and how people latch onto that and they go, well, if you know where to find content, if you know where to find, quality, something that's just going to like come into my life and make a difference, that if you know where to tap into that, then you must know what's up. You must know what's going on. Like you've got everything lined up right. And so it's really interesting to see that affect so many different people in various industries. Like you were saying, you have people coming, out of left field for these topics that you never thought they would. And it's crazy to see that. But yeah, as far as, everything, the podcast for us, it's been interesting because, you're one of our, recordings up front. So we actually haven't published the first episode yet. as of right now. So, once people are listening to this, we'll have, a lot of content out. But, this is actually, before we've even published the first episode. And we had a podcast called Chameleon Cast for our company, Chameleon. And, so many people were talking to us saying like, hey, are you going to bring guests on? Where are you taking this? And it was interesting because our first initial thought with that, and I wasn't on that was just run by Mike and Chris. But our first initial thought with that was thought leadership in our industry with the services we provided with that company. And we said, like we can make this so much bigger. Let's kind of kick it up to our umbrella company and make it, guest centric and bring on a lot of awesome people. And we just started reaching out to, different people in different industries, professional athletes, trainers, financial advisors, everything. And we started reaching out to those people, giving them the link to sign up. And we had, I think 15 to 20 people sign up within the first week. And it was just awesome. Just getting that out there and seeing the response. So for us, that positive response up to this point has just been seeing how much upfront quality there is already without even releasing it. And we're super excited to see what happens, once we start publishing content and how the audience grows and reacts and, kind of like morphs with us as we move forward.
That's so cool. The journey is the prize, man. I mean, you want the goal, you want the end result, but at the end of the day, you got to enjoy the process. And one thing I found from my podcast that was really beautiful was this beautiful exchange of time and value, where that's all I wanted. I looked at all my podcast guests as, people to connect with and relationships. And, it's really turned this really funky, unexpected, beautiful way to meet clients, my wealth management business. It's people that I want to work with, people that are interesting to me, and they happen to be a part of my target market. And then a lot of times after the end of the podcast, there's no ask for me. It's not like, hey, they'll reach out and be like, hey, you do this, and you're like, tell me more about your business. And it's completely turning this unbelievable marketing out of my business. And it didn't even start that way. It was completely shine a light, talk to some cool people, make some great connections. And like, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's definitely something we've personally encountered on our side of things as well. Is it's like, what, like we just genuinely want to, learn about who people are, what they do, their backgrounds, and then it turns into, hey, like, these guys on Canopy Cast, like they have a couple companies, like, you should check them out, like if you're needing this or that or whatever. And it's like, it's just like free advertising, free marketing, even though that's not the goal. And it's just the beauty and power of networking. Even though networking is the focus, it's not for marketing. Like networking is why we're doing this. And yet as a result of that, being true to that, like it pays off. It really does. It's amazing how it works.
Yeah. The thing that I'm most excited about is, just sitting down and talking to people who are passionate about what they do and being able to bring that content to other people who care and are trying to grow. And, that's one of my biggest things, with our company culture is having a growth oriented environment. And I think podcasts are just like the perfect embodiment of that, because it's a growth oriented environment with people who are on the show, whatever it is, they're almost always talking about making progress in some area, whether that's mental health, whether that's business, whatever that is, marketing. And it's really interesting because you're not only able to do that, interact with each other, but you can also like bring that to the people who are the listeners. And it's invaluable in my opinion. You can't really put a price tag on that, and that's why podcasts are free. But
that's awesome. So when are you dropping your first episode? Do you have a release date?
We do, yeah. So it'll be this coming Wednesday. So today's the Thursday, April 30th. For those of you listening, first episode is going to be Wednesday, and we're super excited.
Awesome. All the love and all the massive energy. You're gonna do is that May the 4th? Is that May 4th or 5th? What is that?
That's a good question.
Oh, okay, because you could have done like May the 4th be with you, that cheesy little.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, congrats. That's huge. So that's
thanks, man.
It's really gonna be, I think, a beautiful experience. And you said you've done about 10 or 15 of these already.
So we have a lineup of about 10 to 15. We've done a few of those so far, but this is actually still towards the beginning of that lineup as well.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
I think it's a beautiful thing, and I like the difference of having more than just back and forth between one person on one side, like the interviewee and the interviewer. I think having
Yeah.
the dynamic of your group and your powerhouse kind of like business connections that you guys have together is like being, I guess, partners, right? Having
Yeah.
that dynamic has been amazing. So
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's been amazing to see how awesome folks like you, Jesse, are so willing to just come on and talk
Yeah.
and spend time. I think that's been one of the most profound kind of experiences in the beginning of this, has been so many people are just willing to spend time, make a connection, exactly like you said, like a relationship connection and story. It's really inspiring. It's really inspiring.
It's very humbling, to be honest, in a good way. It's just like, wow, like all of these amazing people wanting to come on our podcast, like they don't know who we are. They don't even really understand what we're doing, but they're like, yeah, man, like, sure, I'd love to come on your podcast. Like, it's so cool. And it really is in a good way. It's very humbling.
there's no person out there, as long as you believe in what you're doing, that's going to say no, like that is too big for your podcast. I've gotten into conversations with maybe one person out of the last 2 years I've been doing this, so I'm still new at it too, so 2 years. And put in an episode a week, and I've had some amazing people. Not one person has ever said your show isn't where it needs to be, or like in terms of like, are you getting this many downloads per week? Like, no one talks like that. It's like, make a connection with a human being, share and trade value, you're good to go. And so I say that because we've had some pretty amazing, all of them in my mind are amazing. We've had some pretty like well-known people on the show, and like everyone's saying yes. So like my thing to you and what you're doing is, the sky's the limit. You want this person that seems out of reach, find a way to backdoor into them. Like maybe they have like an assistant or somebody or whatever. Anybody will be on your show as long as you ask them.
Yeah, that's some good advice. What would you say one of the biggest obstacles for you starting out your podcast, or even, after you started, what's been one of the biggest obstacles for you that, is some good advice, not only for us, but for other people out there right now looking to do that? Because, with, what we said, all the extra time that people have on their hands, like there are a lot of people like us who are, starting that right now. So what is some advice that, you can give? What's that obstacle that you had to overcome, and how'd you do that?
For all of us Nike heads that are out there, it's just do it. Just get out there and do it. Don't go ahead and try to make this grandiose thing and have this great plan. Like, just hit record and see what happens. And then from there, you'll get better, because my first 12 episodes are garbage in my mind in terms of what I was doing, not the guest, in terms of what I was doing, from like the editing stuff or the sound or the visual, like all that stuff, where no one else is really, yes, that comes across, but like no one's really paying attention to that but you at the time. So you're in your head about it. So instead of being in your head about, well, how is this going to be received, or am I going to sound like a schmuck, like just kind of those like fears that you put in your mind, just hit record. That's it. Just hit record and see what happens. And then from there, work on your craft. Find people that, for me, running a business, being a dad, doing all these other things, I didn't have the time or the bandwidth to want to figure out how to like edit my videos, or, like I do all the setup, I do the sound, I do the video, like, and all that. Like that stuff I learned how to do so that I can do this on my own. But I had help in the beginning. So for the first 10 episodes, I actually had a guy that was in between school. He was out for summer break. He was going back to college at the end of the summer. And he was like, I'll help you. I'll show you everything I can. So we got all the equipment, and he showed me how to do the setup of the sound, and like, so like I control that environment. But even from there, it was still a learning process. And so I would just say, have grace with knowing that you don't know everything. And if you're not going to figure out how to do certain things, like a lot of people will take this on themselves and learn how to do it. If you can't or won't do that, find an amazing person that can, and then bring them into your podcast or business. And then let them help you, like I do today. I have an editor that does the editing of the visuals, the audio. He cuts trailers, and he puts stuff on YouTube. And another really good thing on YouTube, if you're not there yet, is there's this, it's a service called TubeBuddy. And I think it's a free service, and then there's like a $9.99 a month, so it's pretty inexpensive. but the data and analytics it gives you for like keyword searching and for how to show up and like tag yourself to like a Joe Rogan episode, like all this crazy stuff is so worth it. So I would say just show up, find the help that you need, and barter and trade services or pay for their time, whatever you got to do, and then use the back end services to help like kind of get visibility on your show.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for that. It's a really good insight.
Yeah. Another quick advice that we'd love to get. So me and Chris are about to be unofficial uncles because John Michael here is expecting.
Why unofficial? What's going to make it official?
Yeah.
You got to explain for our listeners and viewers.
Yeah. So my wife and I are expecting in August. And so, awesome. Although Chris and Mike are not blood brothers, they're going to be, unofficial.
They're uncles. They're funkles.
They're going to be the uncles.
Or the funkles. That's right. Thank you. Yes. You morph words too. That's great. Yes, the funkles. That's right.
Yeah. What advice do you have about being a dad, about that experience in your life? How has that affected you?
Well, shit, man. So for me, growing up for the first 30, well, not 30, my dad changed his ways in my mid to late 20s. So my dad, like I was talking about, was a heroin addict. He was this high school athlete, all-star in all these sports, and he was destined for greatness, and he just threw it all away. And so hearing that story a lot, especially going to the same high school that he went to where he was this dominant athlete, and me not being quite the athlete, I used to hear it because a lot of the people that he went to school with became teachers or security or like were still around the school. And so I had this like never really could live up to my dad at a certain point before he got all screwed up. So there was kind of like this like weird dynamic there. And then after I got past that, it was just this longing and this need for relationship that wasn't there. And then eventually he kicked the drugs, we reconciled. He became the best man in my wedding, which when I asked him, and you know this from Mike being from Boston, he's this like second generation Italian guy. And he's got like this kind of like almost like gangster way about him. He's like, I asked him, I was like, Dad, I was like, would you be the best man at my wedding? And he goes, what, you don't have any friends? And I'm like, yeah, I do. But like, I want you, this is a way to like extend the olive branch. So I say all that to say that in becoming a dad or an uncle, either one, it's all about the relationship. And it's all about pouring into that little human being and showing the fuck up for them. And that means saying what you're going to do and doing it. That means being present when you're with them. And this goes for anybody, dad, mom, whatever. If you are a business owner, if you're someone who works and you have kids and you have nieces and nephews, put the fucking phone down. Like when you're with them, get on the floor and play with them, show them things, teach them things. And here's the thing you're going to learn. Kids, they're the biggest teachers you're ever going to have. They're going to teach you about patience and attitude and frustration and all these different things. So all I can say is be in the moment. Don't think about anything else. Put down your phone, your tablet, your laptop. Work can wait. Get on the floor with them, teach them something, learn from them, and everything takes care of itself. So that's my biggest advice. The biggest joy I have in my life is being a dad. And it came from not having my dad, but knowing that I wanted to one day be a very good dad. And I'm still learning. I suck at stuff. I have to be a homeschooling dad now and teach my kid how to do stuff. And it's different than life lessons. I'm sitting there teaching him curriculum and I'll get frustrated. I'm like, dude, we got to do our work. And like, I'll lose my shit. So like, I'm still learning. And that's the beauty of the process is you teach each other, you love each other, everything will work out.
That's awesome.
So when is baby John Michael Price due? What's the date? August?
Yeah, it's interesting. So funny story, a little bit of backstory humor about my family. So my birthday is August 6th.
Okay.
My wife's birthday is December 17th.
Okay.
My mother's birthday is December 18th. And my wife's mother's birthday is August 6th.
Get out of here.
Not kidding at all.
Wow.
And our due date is right around August 6th. So there's the first week of August.
There's going to be a lot of like familial ties to that date. Maybe.
Right. So, yeah, it's pretty interesting.
That's crazy. And so is it too early to tell boy or girl at this point?
Girl.
Oh, yeah. So Uncle Mike and Uncle Chris got to come through with the love and protection.
Yeah.
Here's another.
Oh yeah. We're gonna have interviews for all the boys that go after her in the future. It's gonna be, they're gonna have to go through Mike and myself first, and then if they make it through that, which is highly unlikely, then they'll go to John Michael for the final interview. But another fun little background to that is that since day one, Mike and myself said it was gonna be a girl, and John Michael was like, no, it's gonna be a boy, the whole time. And then eventually we were with him when they found out, and he was like, it's a girl. And I'm so happy. And it was beautiful.
So when you found out, was there like a gender reveal? You like broke something and pink went everywhere? Like what happened?
No, unfortunately we found out during, we found out during, the epidemic. So Chris and Mike happened to be in Denver, and, my wife and I went to the ultrasound and we had the gender reveal. It was just the two of us. And then, we came back and had dinner with Chris and Mike, and another one of our business partners, Alex, was there as well. So yeah, it was just kind of like a nice little intimate like friend moment, and we were able to like hang out and celebrate.
That's beautiful.
I was dead set. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. No, I was just saying, the one thing I would say when it comes to a niece or a daughter, date her. Like take her out when she's a little bit, even younger, but when she's older and starts to realize like 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, like as dad and uncles, when you spend time with her, take her out and show her what it's like to be a true man and a true gentleman, and teach her what to look for as she gets older. So you don't want to think about this now, but when she's 13, 14, 15, 16, starts like dating and seeing guys, the example that the three of you set right now for her is going to be everything. So opening door, and listen, I get it, like the whole like toxic masculinity thing that's out there and like whatever. If you feel it's nice to open the door for someone, open the friggin' door for someone. If you want to help someone, but at the end of the day, as a dad and two uncles, it's really your job to show her what it means to be a man in terms of how a woman should be treated.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was interesting because I was dead set. I thought it was going to be a boy all the way up until we found out that it was going to be a girl. And it was really interesting because, we were there, and the ultrasound technician said, it's going to be a girl. And my wife and I looked at each other, and, I was excited, but she could tell like, something was off, and she was like, are you upset? Like, is like, you were hoping for a boy? And I was like, I wasn't necessarily set on having a boy or a girl. I think like every man out there wants a son. But what was interesting for me is it wasn't like, oh, dang it, it's not a boy. It was, my first thoughts were, oh, I'm going to have to deal with guys, like teenage guys and dating and all this other stuff. And so for me, it was like, oh, I just have a lot more to worry about now that's out of my control. And so she was like, is everything okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm just thinking about a lot.
This is going to be a great thought. And it's kind of funny though, but my wife talks about that too. She goes, with boys, you only have to worry about one thing. But like with girls, you got to worry about all of them. so that's why you have two amazing uncles / uncles to help you with that. So.
Oh yeah.
That's right. And something that's really funny too is that John Michael like loves and is really good at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, right? Can totally kick my butt, Mike's butt, like the two of us at the same time. He can kill us, right? So I told him as soon as like, I mean, I already knew it was a girl, of course, but when they revealed that it was a girl, like I remember he was like, just wait till my 3-year-old can kick your ass. And I'm like, yeah, that's true.
Beautiful skill, martial arts. It's something that it helps build, empowerment, commitment. And so where are you at with your learning and your BJJ? Are you like blue, purple, brown, black? Where are you at?
Yeah, just before blue. I kind of picked it up right before college.
Yeah.
And I got really into it, and it was kind of an on-off situation because it was the first martial art I came across that I was really comfortable with. So, really, really quick backstory on me is that I've had, 6 major concussions. I played a lot of sports when I was younger, and the last one I got was when I was 14. I was completely banned from contact sports for the rest of my life. They say, don't ever ride roller coasters again. Like, don't even play doubles tennis for like 2 years, because if someone hits you in the head with a racket, like you're done for. And so something that I'd always wanted to do is martial arts. I did a little bit of Aikido when I was younger. and other stuff. But like, I kind of had to put a stop to almost all physical activity that wasn't just, running or gym.
Yeah.
And it was really crazy for me, because like sports, I love sports. I played basketball, football, baseball, soccer. I swam. Like, it was, half my life at that point. And having to always want to do a martial art, it was kind of holding me back. And I really wanted to do that. But one of my really good high school, I shouldn't say high school friends, one of my really good I almost said high school, but I meant to say hometown. One of my good hometown friends, Brent Lillard, kind of got me into it, because he's a little bit older than me, and he started training before I did. And I think at the time when I started training with him, he was either a purple or a brown. Don't kill me if I got that wrong, Brent. But he just kind of roped me in, and he was like, "Hey dude, you should come check this out. It's an awesome sport." And I was like, "I can't. I really wish I could, but like, I can't with my head." And he said, "Don't worry about it. Like, there's no contact. Like, you're not gonna get your brains knocked out. Like, don't worry about it, especially if you work with me one-on-one." So it was a really humbling experience for me, because, he was really, really incredibly good. And I had absolutely no idea how good at the time, because I had no scale, but he worked with me one-on-one privately for, hours and hours and hours and hours before I ever set foot in the gym. And, from day one, white belt, I can't even understand how he had that much patience, as a purple or brown at the time. And, he just kind of brought me into the culture, and it was a really awesome experience. And then I started going to the gym and training when I was coming home from breaks from college at the gym he trained at. And then he ended up opening up his own gym. And that thing is going crazy. Not so much right now because of COVID, but right before that, they had over 100 different members, and they're killing it over there. And so that's kind of how I got into it, and just training on and off over the summer when I was home from school. Worked my way up, and I'm right before blue right now. And then we started the business, and that kind of tapered off, because we started the business and I moved to Denver right at the same time. And I haven't found a gym there yet, but I've heard there are a lot of good gyms in Denver, and I'm excited to kind of get back in the scene.
I would say martial arts, especially jiu-jitsu, it's like the golf in the sense, golf of martial arts, where you could play it until you're elderly. You could do jiu-jitsu until basically you're not here anymore. I've been in martial arts since 2011. I've had a couple concussions, but not at the severity or amount that you have. And so I was able to still stay with striking, and I'm a striker at heart. I have this weird thing about getting punched. It like makes me want to fight harder. It's weird. And so I've been doing Muay Thai kickboxing pretty much on and off since 2011. So I admire the hustle. I admire the commitment, because it is a commitment, and just stay with it. It's a lifelong thing, man.
Yeah, definitely can't wait to get back into it.
It's awesome.
Mike, what's I don't know if we have how much time we have.
Be respectful of your time here as well. Yeah, I know we're kind of running out of time. Are there any other, I guess, questions or advice or any kind of things that you want to share with us and our listeners?
Yeah, from a financial planning standpoint, 100% invest in yourself. The great and mighty, powerful Warren Buffett says this, and if this guy who's been at the top of his game, he's traded his first stock when he was 11, before the internet, before any of that stuff. Like, he's a guru. He knows what he's doing. But for him to say the biggest thing that's helped him is investing in yourself might sound cliche, but also pay attention. Be the mechanic to your own car. If you're a car, what's not where it needs to be, right? So if your public speaking needs to be better, if your marketing skills need to be better, if your sales skills, that's one thing that, again, going back to the Gary Vee thing, we've talked about it a few times. He's of the mindset, punt your weaknesses. Well, yes and no. If you're never going to be great at something, no matter how much you try, like, I'm probably never going to dunk a basketball again, although I have like fantasies of doing this again. Like, maybe I should kind of like punt that idea and like focus on other things, right? But you also don't want to give up on things that you can be great at. Like, think about all these athletes, pro athletes. Their whole job is focusing on their weaknesses, because they're at such a level where people are trying to take their job every second they can, but they have to get in the gym and work on their strength. They have to get on the field and work on their speed. So investing in yourself and paying attention to things that you can get better at, that you want to get better at, and even the things you don't want to do, right? Another comparison is I got into running a couple of years ago, and I'm a bigger guy, and I never fancied myself a runner, but I'm pretty good at it. And I ended up getting better at running, number one, but then number two, doing the complementary accessory work that went along with that, whether that's, stuff for cardio, whether that's strengthening the legs or mobility with yoga, whatever the case is, you have to focus on things and get better at them. And this is a beautiful time to do it. So entrepreneur, family person, find out what you need to get better at and just work on it. Invest in yourself. Get the coach, get the mentor, get the consultant, go to the conferences, listen to the podcast. I mean, go to YouTube University. It's free. Like just figure out a way to get it done and get it done.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jesse. Again, guys, Jesse T, check out his podcast, check out his company. We'll be posting all the information and links. And please check him out. Follow him on all of social media. And thanks so much for listening, guys. And until next time, this has been Canopy Cast.